Alright, welcome back. So let's, that last video was really boring, so let's try and make this one a bit more spicy. Oh no, this is a single slide, so this is now Unit 2. We've just had an introduction last time to what do we mean by settlement, what do we mean by site and situation, why did people settle in various places. It's quite easy for us to see why you would want to settle in a place with gold or diamonds or a harbor. But now we're just going to work on this unit. It's a single slide. This is where we understand for ourselves, well, what is the difference between a rural settlement and an urban settlement. And this you've done from social science, probably back in grade 7. But if you have forgotten, we're going to go over it quickly again. So it basically comes down to what economic activities are taking place in an area. And we can also look at how many people are there and what else is going on in that place. So the easiest way to classify an urban versus rural area is to see what economic activities are taking place. So on the left hand side I've got a nice picture of a farmland and some kind of farmstead there, some roads and some trees. So that looks like there is some agriculture happening there, which is a primary activity. So if there are primary activities happening, then it is classified as a rural area. And remember that your primary activities are farming or agriculture, forestry, fishing or mining. So if any of those things are taking place, you can be fairly sure that the area is a rural area. And you can double check to see if you live in an urban or rural area. You can ask yourself, is anybody fishing or engaging in agriculture or forestry or mining in your neighborhood? And they're probably not. Therefore, you probably live in an urban area. If we look at some of the other rows inside that rural settlement column, the first column, you will see in rural areas we also find that the dwellings, which would be the actual settlements, they would be quite small. There would not be massive dwellings or massive areas that have been settled. They would be quite small areas or small dwellings, and also there would not be that many people. Or at least the population density would be fairly low in a rural settlement. We've done on the second row there where I've said economic activity. We've talked a bit about that, so we know that in a rural area there would be simply primary activities. If we look at services, and we can understand services to be things that the settlement provides, like education, internet, healthcare services, waste removal, electricity, water, police, all of those things would be your services. So in a rural area you would have fewer of those services. You will not, it's highly unlikely you would find a brain surgeon or a investment banker in a rural setting, because you'd expect those people to be in a city. And you will find fewer educational opportunities too in a rural area, because you usually find those in a city. The land use that you'd usually find, that final row, the first column, the land use is very widely spaced. Everything's spaced out. Things are far apart from each other. You would usually find that there's no dense groupings of buildings in rural areas. And now if we switch our view to the urban settlements on the right hand side, we would see there's a picture of a big city there. You can see that, well, there's probably massive amounts of people in an urban area, and the urban area would be huge. Cities can be massive types of settlements that stretch for tens of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers in either direction. You can see in that picture as well that the buildings are very densely grouped together. There's a lot of them. They're very tall, and the area is just very clustered, and things are very dense, which would mean there's a high population density as well. The definition actually of an urban area would be that there are not primary activities taking place, but there would be secondary, tertiary and quaternary activities taking place in the economy. And to remind you of what those are, The secondary activities were involved in processing the raw materials that we extracted from the primary activity. So manufacturing, factories, construction. Then our tertiary activities would be services like banking services, legal services, things like insurance, things like healthcare, when you're getting advice from your doctor, or in investment banking. And then quaternary activities are the trade in data, buying and selling data or information, like Google. Google would be a quaternary industry. Facebook or Instagram would also be quaternary industries. They're dealing in data. And that is how you define rural versus urban. So rural does not mean it's a rundown area and it's very poor. It means there are primary activities taking place. Just like urban has a very simple definition, that there are secondary, tertiary and quaternary activities taking place. So I hope that you guys understand that difference. It's fairly clear from these nice pictures and this table.